Welcome to today's interview. I've brought on Brooke Lively. Brooke, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Heather. I really appreciate it.
Give the listeners a little background. Where do you live and what do you do?
So I live in Fort Worth, Texas with my golden retriever, Katie, who seems to have wandered off. And I help small companies become more profitable by serving as their CFO.
That's amazing. And business is something I think a lot of us can relate to. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I love this stuff. A lot of my circle is too. But I want to speak on a more general level today. And especially, I would love for you to share your story, the backstory of, this 26 months of deficit when it came to business, but how you had this vision and how it all played out.
All right. So first of all, I want to say this is a story I didn't start telling until about 6 months ago because I was embarrassed. And here I am. My job is to make companies more profitable, and my company ran a loss for 26 months straight, which is a really stinking long time. And I did everything. And I did everything that most entrepreneurs did. I racked up credit card debt. I refinanced my house. I had lines of credit, and I went maxed those out. Everything was maxed out. And it was a really long time to run a loss, but I knew where I was going. I knew what my company would look like. I knew what I needed to do. I broke down what I needed to accomplish. So we were talking right before this, and I said, how do you eat an elephant, right? And the answer is one bite at a time. So I knew the elephant that I was eating was a profitable company. And I knew which bites needed to happen when, so that I could turn to a profit. I think the important thing is to not hold your vision too tightly. I think you need to know what that ultimate destination is, but the tighter you hold it, the more restrictive it becomes. So it's like sand, right? You put sand in your hands, and the tighter you hold it, it just like spews out between your fingers, right? And when you loosen your grip and you have a looser hold on that sand, it will sit in your hands forever. So it's have that vision, have a loose hold on it so that you can be open to possibilities. So like I said, I knew the bites of the elephant that I needed to take to be profitable. That's not how I became profitable. I became profitable because I stopped and I listened to my clients. And my clients said, this is what we want to do. And I said, okay, we can do that. And that one conversation with 3 clients went from running a loss every month to running a profit.
What I'm hearing you say on the holding your vision loosely is to know the end result, to know that maybe you want to be in a relationship or you want to start a business or you want a certain dollar amount. But are you saying more or less to be open to the how it unfolds?
Yeah, I think there are 2 things, and they're going to sound opposite. I think there should be a plan. Absolutely. If you don't have some kind of plan, what did Churchill say? He who fails to plan plans to fail, I think is the expression. But at the same time, I think realize that plans change and be open to that change and be open to that new direction.
And also something you talked about, this whole idea of the elephant and taking one bite at a time. I have found it so important to know the end goal and to reverse engineer and create more or less clarity in a roadmap, again, loosely, but kind of like, okay, I know I need to be taking forward progress. I know I need to be taking action and one step at a time. What can I do today? And so during this 26 months of having a deficit, that's a long period. And I feel that
really long time.
Yeah, I feel most people would have thrown in the towel, quit, forget it. This is too hard. how did you create belief in certainty or having faith to keep going?
I think it was a couple of things. I think it was, well, I'm a numbers girl, right? So we're data driven. And when you have the data, when you make a decision based on data, you don't lose sleep over it because you know you've made the right decision. So I think that I had my vision, I knew where I was headed, I knew what I was doing, and I had a plan to get there that was based on data. So I could be confident in it. And I mean, and that's not to say that I didn't panic. I panicked. You know, I worried and I'm like, well, how is this going to work out? And oh my gosh, I just like refinanced my house and took out all the equity. I mean, I did it all. But it is having that plan and keeping to it. And for some reason for me, having the plan was what enabled me to hold the vision. Does that make sense?
Well, and something you shared with me being data driven, when you actually broke it down to how many clients you would need or your next steps, and I shared a story with you, I'll share just real quick. My cousin and I have partnered and we have an online digital product coming out in a couple months with yoga and wellness. And the initial investment is thousands of dollars, and we were both kind of like, oof, you know, that's kind of gut wrenching. That's a lot because we don't know the outcome. And I think that's what holds most people back is that initial fear or the doubt or how am I going to do it? But the moment we took the dollar amount and we broke down to what our offering is going to be, the monthly income, how many members we would need, it was like, oh, well, that's really freaking doable. So what advice would you give to somebody else who has that vision but hasn't done the work or the steps to break it down to see that, oh, this is possible?
Do the math. The math is always, I think, once there's an expression about shining a light on a fear and the fear evaporates. And I think it's the same way if you do the math. I was talking to an attorney out in San Francisco right before the lockdown. And she said, you know, I was so worried about opening my own firm. And then somebody showed me how many hours I needed to bill a month to make it happen. And how many hours a week? It was like 2 hours a week. Like it was not a big deal. And I think that most people will find the same thing. So for you, it was this big, huge investment. All you could see was that initial investment. And then when you broke it down, when you said, I'm going to make this up, 12 clients, and I'll make all our money back in 5 months, you're like, oh, that's doable. When that attorney found out that she only had to bill 2 hours a week to do it, whatever it is, it's breaking it down and looking at exactly what it will take gives you an immense amount of confidence.
Something you also shared previously with me, which I love, and it's, I think, a whole coming from perspective of impossible to possible, is that so many people live from their go-to is no. So talk about that.
Yeah, so I think that's a natural thing for a lot of people. And you've probably heard this, but you can live in a world of abundance or you can live in a world of lack. And choosing to live in the world of abundance is different than living in lack. So if you live in lack, if there's never enough, your initial answer is always going to be no. Living in a world of abundance doesn't mean that your initial answer is yes. Your initial answer is what if? What if this worked out? What if I got the clients I needed? What if? And it's a shift, and it's a shift you have to make intentionally. When you find yourself going, no, it won't, say, whoa, 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 hold on, what if? What
Okay.
if I got the clients? What if I find the perfect guy? What if, the house I've been dreaming of is the next one I go look at?
And what I just wrote down that you shared, which is so powerful, is it's an intentional shift going from there's no way to I'll find a way. And so when you come from that possibility, I think it just opens up, we're all energy. This whole human experience, we're energy. And so what you're putting out, whatever your vibe is, whatever your thoughts are, lack or scarcity, possibility or not, that's what you're going to continue getting back. And so even your example on the holding the sand, when you're clenching, when you're holding so tight to there's no way, or you're trying to have control, what you shared is when you're holding so tight, it actually leaves quicker.
Mm-hmm.
But then share what it's like when you open.
Yeah. When you open, when you relax, when you become open to the possibility, you will find, what's the expression, life attracts like? And you're right, we are energy. And if you put out the positive to the world, the positive is going to come to you. What you concentrate on multiplies. So if you always say no, you're going to get no. If you say what if or yes, you're going to get what if and yes. And it is a conscious decision, but it's like a muscle. The more you do it, the more you exercise that muscle, the more you make the decision to say what if instead of no, the easier it becomes, the more ingrained it becomes. And it doesn't happen overnight. And even the people who live in that abundant world and are, 99.999% of the time say what if, there's still going to be days when they're like, oh no, no. But they're fewer and far between.
Well, and what was your mindset shift like those 26 months of deficit into focusing on data-driven, creating that belief in certainty, knowing you could do this, holding your vision? What was that like, and how long did it take for you to start seeing profit again?
So it was very much what's past is past. I'm looking forward. So I did not dwell. In fact, I didn't know it was 26 months until a year after I had been profitable. I had no idea that it had been that long. It was a loss. All right. It's in the past, moving forward. And so that's part of it. Like, what's behind you is behind you. Quit looking in the rearview mirror.
Yes.
Look ahead.
It's funny you bring that up, because literally when you were sharing that, I was picturing myself in a car going down the road, and it is so easy to get stuck focusing on what's behind me, what could have been, what should have been, how it could have been different. Well, that's not going to serve you. And so instead, to be in the vehicle, be and forward thinking but I mean, what advice would you give to someone to that? Because it is easy, and especially if it's habitual to always be thinking in the past. How do you flip the switch to, okay, what can I do today to get closer to my end goal?
I think part of it's grateful. So my next door neighbor, I actually live in a duplex. I'm trying to buy the other half because I want to knock through the walls. I don't know what I would do with that much space, but I really want it. And it's my vision, and I know it's going to happen, and I just have to get a crowbar to get my neighbor out of his side, right?
Yeah.
Somehow. And he's sticking so hard to it because he does things like, he used to live in Austin and some other places where real estate has really gone up. And he will look at the price of the house that he owned 15 years ago, and it's now worth more than $1 million. And all he can do is say, I lost so much money. And I'm like, well, not really, because you sold that house and you used the money to buy the next house. And then you used that money to buy the house after that. And now you realize that you are living in a house next door to me and you have zero mortgage. So take a moment and be grateful that that first house started this chain reaction that led you to a place that's really great. And I think that you should do that with a lot of things. It's, you know, people talk about the gratitude practice and being grateful. And I think it is. I think the things in the rear view mirror brought you to where you are today with the possibility of what you'll have tomorrow.
Yes. I love that analogy, and especially, gratitude really is so, so important. It's something I've literally done, I think, since I was 8, and watched it on Oprah, learning about a gratitude journal. So every night before bed, I think of at least 5 things from that day for which I'm grateful for. So I go to bed feeling so good and lit up, and a lot of the times just smiling, like, that happened to me today. But especially in that guy's case, that just has so much to do with perspective, and again, not playing the woulda, coulda, shoulda game. And do you have some sort of regular routine or practice that, to keep your mindset strong, to focus forward, to have this gratitude? What are you doing for yourself?
Well, one of the places where I am most grateful isn't really accessible right now because I do it on airplanes.
Oh.
I travel a ton. And I discovered probably 6 or 8 years ago that is the place where I am most grateful. Part of it is because it's a place I have a personal rule. There is no Wi-Fi and no working on airplanes. It is time for me, and it's time. I don't take that time often enough. But the rule is, when I'm on an airplane, it's me time. And I find that the moment I stop, the moment I am even the least bit reflective about my life, I am so incredibly grateful for everything I have. And let's face it, everything I've created. And so it is that slowing down. I'm in EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, and last fall there was a big regional meeting, and we had all these people come to speak, including, and I'm not going to remember her name. Her first name is Molly. There was a movie made about her, Molly's Game. She ran the big, huge, enormous.
Yeah, she's from like the Vale area.
Yeah.
Oh, her brother, he's a skier.
Everybody in Denver knows her brother. It is the funniest thing.
Jeremy Bloom, Molly Bloom.
Yes, that's it. Why is it that everybody knows Jeremy in Denver? Like, it is the craziest thing. Everybody knows it. So anyway, so she came and spoke, and a whole bunch of other people, and the recurring theme that I saw was meditation. And so that was something that I started after that meeting. And everybody meditates in a different way, and I think that that's something that people need to allow to happen. I meditate lying down. I don't find it comfortable to be sitting up. So I lie down, I pick a yoga position that is a very open position. And I meditate, and I started off doing 1 minute at night and 1 minute in the morning, and gradually increased it. And I think that is also that slowing down that I don't do, that most people don't do. I mean, we're so busy. And it's that reflective time. I'm not supposed to be reflecting. I'm really supposed to be empty. But, again, everybody does it a different way. But it's taking that time, and you do it through your gratitude journal.
Well, and ultimately what you're sharing is the power of presence. And especially for those, literally, I was talking this morning with my mastermind group, and one of the members, he's gotten more into meditation lately. He did a Deepak Chopra abundance meditation, 21 day. And he's like, I never.
Oh, did he do it with Oprah?
Maybe, I don't know.
Oprah and Deepak do 21-day meditations that are free online, and they do them together.
Yes, I actually have tried them before. But what he was sharing, he's never stuck with a meditation practice. And he did this one, and actually, long story short, it got him out of the monkey mind and quieted his mind and got him focused. And he had an amazing, huge week, but he had, with new clients and income, whatever, in his business, 13,000 in a 1 week period.
That's awesome.
He had a 5-figure week. I mean, you know, a lot of people want to have a 5-figure month. He did it in a week. And so it was just the power of presence.
But Heather, it goes back to the sand, right?
Yeah.
If you are holding it tightly, if you're worrying about everything, if your mind is going 90 miles a minute, it's like you are gripping that sand with everything you have. And stopping, being present, meditation, gratefulness, it's all part of slowing down and opening your hands and holding your sand in your life loosely in a way that enables things to come to you and for you to see things better.
I seriously love that visual and metaphor. So, question for you, what is one key takeaway you want listeners to get from this conversation?
You know, it's so funny. I knew you were going to ask me this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's data-driven decisions, and it's fear, and it's just, and I feel like we haven't really talked about a lot of what I would like the key takeaway to be. So I guess I have to change my takeaway.
Or share what you think we've missed.
Okay, what I think we've missed, and we've talked around the edges of it, is having that vision and how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. I think the missing component that we haven't talked about really directly is shine a light on it. There are so many things that we fear, whether it's starting a new business or getting into a relationship or whatever. There's, I wrote an article one time about fears in your business are like a child having fears at night of the monster in the closet, right? It's all encompassing. You feel it. You can't do anything about it. It's the only thing that that child can see. And they stay in that pain for a really long time until they finally do something about it. And in a child's case, they call for mom and dad, right? They either overcome the fear that there are sharks in the carpet and they jump out of bed and run to mom and dad, or they just yell loudly enough and mom and dad come and rescue them. There's an outside intervention. So whether you do it yourself or there's an outside intervention. But ultimately what happens is somebody turns on the light.
Yes.
And you can see that that was not a monster in the closet. That was the shadow of your teddy bear. And I think doing the same thing in your life, in your business, those things of which you're really scared, shine a light on them. Expose them. It makes it so much more manageable. And also share it with somebody, because that other person's going to have a different perspective on that problem.
I think you nailed it. And seriously, that is such a golden nugget. But for somebody who, are they even aware of their fears? And something we talked about offline was, I know people that have been sitting with a dream of theirs and so fearful, so stuck in procrastination and all the things. 10 years have gone by. I don't want whoever's listening for another 6 months to go by. So how do you shine the light to stop living in the fear-based thought pattern and shine the light and go forward and do the things you want and YOLO your life? And I mean, our life is totally up to us, right? We are creating our reality. So how do we create the best reality?
I think it's a lot of things that we've talked about. I think it is finding the vision. I think it's doing the work, like break it down. What is it going to take? That is a way to shine the light on it. I think it is opening yourself to the possibility of what if instead of going with no. I think that part of it, honestly, is just realizing that if you don't change, another 10 years are going to go by and you're going to be in the same exact place. And I think that the final thing is accepting that there's never a perfect time.
Yes.
There's never a perfect time to start a business. There's never enough money to start a business. Same thing with children, right? There's never the perfect time to have a child. You are either too busy or you don't have enough money. I can remember my best friend wanted to have private school tuition and college tuition in a bank account before she had her second child. I'm like, it's ridiculous. Like, that's not going to happen. You have to realize that things do work out. So my father has a theory. He calls it JIT money, and it's just in time. And you have to help the just in time money. But if you have faith and if you work towards it, the money you need will always show up just in time. So I know that you left a big corporate job, and there's never a good time to leave a corporate job, right?
No.
You're never going to have enough money in the bank. You're never going to know what you're doing next. It's always going to take a leap of faith.
The best part about that was I delayed it for months because you want all your ducks in a row and you want everything to be perfect. And I finally literally woke at what really happened. It was a Thursday. I'll never forget it. I'd gotten some new dreadful assignment and I finally was like, fuck it, I'm done. My resignation letter had been written for months. And I literally, it was, thank goodness I did it in the moment or I wouldn't have. I walked down the hallway and I sat down with my boss and I finally did it. But you're right. What you're saying is there's never going to be a right time. Take action and the money, the resources, whatever you need will show up.
It will show up.
Yes.
Now, I am not saying quit your job, sit at home on the couch and watch TV all day.
No.
Like, you got to put some effort in. But if you do put that effort in, it will show up. It will work out. It will happen. And it's having, let's go back to the sand. Like, it's not holding it so tight. It's having the mindset of abundance, of possibility, and knowing and being open that it will show up.
I'm definitely going to write that quote down. It's having the mindset of abundance and possibility. Yeah. I love that. Okay, so I have a few rapid fire questions to ask you to wrap up the interview.
Uh-oh.
So I know people get all nervous and I'm like, you'll be fine. Okay, the first one, what is a quote or motto that you live by?
Oh, so I'm going to have to go with my high school. We had an official like Latin motto, and then we had the unofficial one, and it is function in disaster, finish in style.
I've never heard that one.
So it's all about, like, a duck glides across the water looking so nice, but they're paddling like mad underneath. Yep, that's what we do. We may function in disaster, but we're going to pull it out at the last minute and look great.
Oh, sweet. Love that. What is a book you're currently reading or highly recommend?
Okay, so I'm reading two really good books right now. One is What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And it is all about growing as a leader, and that you are the one that is holding yourself back from that next job, that next promotion. And the way to become that good leader is to stop focusing on yourself and focus on others.
Yep.
So that's awesome. And then the other one's right here, Fix This Next by Mike McAllowitz. So it's a great framework for looking at what is not working in your business and attacking that next.
The previous book you shared that you are the one holding yourself back. What was the key message in that note?
To focus on others, and only by focusing on other people can you become the leader that you need to be, your company needs you to be, your coworkers need you to be.
Do you know, I've actually heard something similar, for, especially for public speakers, for people who get all worked up and anxious about public speaking, it's because you're making it about you. When you make it about the audience and you wanting to serve them and the message come out, then that's when it just flows. So I understand what they're saying.
Exactly.
Okay, final question for you. What advice would you give your younger self?
So this is really interesting. When my uncle was dying, his priest came to the house and said, "Okay, what regrets do you have?" And Eddie said, "I don't have any regrets. I lived my life." And I have to say, I don't have regrets about my life because every decision I made brought me here. Um, so I think the advice that I would give myself is be a little more open to the possibilities that are out there. I don't know that I was as open as I could have been at 20 or 25.
Yeah, I agree.
And one other thing.
Yes.
All right. Failure is a learning opportunity. Failure enables success. If you do not fail, you are never going to succeed. So fail fast, fail forward.
100%. What a great note to end on. Brooke, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Heather. I had a great time.